Brad Vincent with the Vincent Realty team at Realty Right, Texas. I'm here today to give you another one of my dad's stories. If you didn't watch the last video, my dad passed away in January of last year, almost a year. And I was telling some of his stories at some sales events and sales seminars, and a bunch of people were giving me good feedback, told me they liked the stories and that the stories motivated them or made them laugh. So I've been telling my dad's stories as a way to kind of keep his legacy going. I did one previous video, now this will be my second dad story. So to give some context as to how intense my father was, my dad was like the most competitive guy. Like anybody who knows him, I wouldn't have to explain it to you. But my dad played college basketball. He was just this guy who competed for everything. Like it didn't matter what it was, but basketball was like his thing. So when I was young, I was in kindergarten, I actually think, maybe first grade. I never played basketball before. My dad brings home a sign-up form. And the sign-up form is for basketball. And I remember he comes into me all coy and like neutral and being like, "Oh, hey son, basketball. You ever heard of that? You want to play basketball? Totally want this to be your choice. I don't want to pressure you to play basketball, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can play some basketball. I'll sign you up, And I just kind of haphazardly was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll throw a ball through a hoop or whatever." And I remember my dad goes into the next room and shuts the door and he goes, "That's what you want to hear, baby. We're going to be playing some basketball, folks." And he's all excited. And I remember even my young mind was like, "Oh, what did I just get myself into?" And so my dad was my coach every year, super intense. We had to be undefeated every year. Like he would even like scout players. He'd scout my friends, like see who were the best to get them on our team and stuff. But the story is that this story is how I beat my dad in basketball in one-on-one for the very first time. So, I obviously kept playing basketball. I played every sport he put me in, going up to there, and played, in junior high and high school. And then in the 8th grade, I got a growth spurt, and I was 6'1" in like the end of my 8th grade season. And that's the height I am now, so I was pretty tall for like an 8th grader, 9th grader. Going into my 9th grade season, I spent most of my time trying to like dodge my dad's love for the game of basketball. Like he was just too intense for me. He was always wearing me out. He wanted me to like eat, sleep, breathe basketball 24/7, and I like wanted to be a child and like enjoy my life, but he couldn't have that. So I would often quit on my father on purpose to prove a point that I like had my own free will in life. So I wasn't really taking the basketball thing seriously. I was like pretty good. I had fun playing with my friends and stuff. Like we would play pickup games like crazy, and it was definitely like a part of my life and like my growing up. But I just didn't have it like he had it. And I didn't really want it, mostly to prove a point that I didn't have to want it because he wanted it for me so freaking bad, right? But my 9th grade season, I kind of gained some of my own motivation. I started to have some success. I started to like kind of reap the benefits of playing and the I don't know. I had a good season. I enjoyed playing where I was playing. It was my rare good season because I pretty much hated every year that I played. And but I had a good season. I started to kind of gain some strength. I was playing like a travel league team that made me better. Playing at the schools making me better. But what would happen is during the basketball season, every morning my dad would drop me off before school. We would have a morning practice. Then during the school day, we had a practice period. And then some days after school, we would even go practice again, right? So I was playing basketball like nonstop. But then my dad would pick me up from practice and we would come home and play one-on-one every day, right? And these games were intense. Like my dad never, ever let me win anything. Like nothing. Checkers, chess, poker, cards, whatever, you name it. Spelling bee. Like he just crushed me every time on purpose to treat me, to teach me like you have to be competitive, right? So like in the beginning, we started playing one-on-one. Like I think we started in like the 8th grade and he would crush me 21-4, 21-6. Like I'd get a few lucky shots here and there. But in like the middle of my 9th grade season, I was getting stronger, getting faster, getting a little better, I started putting up like legitimate points on like 15, 16, 17 points. Until one day we were down to the final possession, one possession game. It was 19-19. And me and my dad had the ball. And I remember it came down to one possession. Like essentially he tried to go like for a move and I slapped the ball out of his hand. The ball got loose and we both went for this ball and we murdered each other for this ball. He got it and scored the game-winning goal. And I remember going to bed that night thinking, I almost had him. Like, this is it, man. Like, you could have beat him today and you didn't do it. And I remember this, like, burning fire in my belly. I was like, I have to kill him, And it's all I could do was think about beating him. Like, I went to school the next day, and I don't even think I was there. Like, I was just thinking, like, dude, one possession. You had him. And the games were getting like super chippy. We were elbowing each other, freaking cussing at each other. Like the one really cool thing about it that I loved is my dad treated me like a man when I was playing with him. Like I could say whatever I want. I could cuss, whatever. I'd get in his face. Like he didn't care. Like as long as you could prove it and you could take care of yourself, like in that game, you could be a man, right? And that's what it was, right? This was like a metaphor for like me achieving my manhood. Like he was challenging me to take it from him, you know? And but I just remember like going through every play, and like it was like a chess match between us every day. Like, you know, I would do a move that worked one day, and then he would figure out a way to shut me down from doing that again. But I remember consistently he was doing this one move where he would cross over to his left and go under the goal, fake like he was going to go up for a regular layup. And if I went to block him, he would feel me, change it, and then go under the goal and do that, right? But if I didn't contest it, he would just put it in straight. And what I started doing is I started letting him have it. I started to kind of haphazardly act like I was going to block him and let him have that move. And intentionally to keep it in my pocket for like, if I need to, I can stuff this, and I know it, and he's going to be lazy about it, right? So again, comes down to 1919. He's got the ball, and he goes for the move. And he goes under the goal, and I'm telling myself, like, okay, dude, you stay within yourself. You've got to sell you're not going to block him, and then let him go up. So he did the thing. He went under, and I stuck the ball to the glass. And I took the ball, and then I turned around and put it right back in, and I won the game. And as the ball like slowly fell through the hoop, I remember it fell through, and we both watched it come down, and we caught eyes, and I was like, yes! Like, I did it, you old jerk. I beat you. And he like, it was like not accepting it. It was like the computer was shut down. And then finally he like perks up, and he gets this like intense look in his eyes. He grabs the ball, chucks the ball across the street, right? The ball goes over the neighbor's house, just like disappears. I don't think we ever recovered that ball. He slams the door and goes inside, and I'm just going, I'm soaking it, right? But like, I slowly walk into the house kind of cautiously, because I'm like, clearly he's angry. Like, I don't want to set him off, you know? I go up to the room, I tell my brother, I'm like, dude, I did it. My brother doesn't believe me. He's like, yeah, you know, you'll never beat dad. And I remember my dad was my age now. Like, I was 14 and he was like 37. So he was still pretty young, pretty spry. He was still beating all the kids in our neighborhood and stuff. So this was like a huge achievement for me. I didn't beat some old, slow, gray man. Like, I beat a pretty healthy guy. And to me, again, I could have beat Michael Jordan that day, you know? But I'm soaking it. So then we have dinner that night. I go to the dinner table, and I see my dad, and my dad's body language is just crap. He's hunched over. He's like, ugh, you know, over his food. He's got his fork, and he's kind of like stewing the plate. And I come in like, you know, I'm like the most excited guy in the world. I sit down like, hey, anything happened to you guys today? You know, finger wagging my sister, my brother, my mom and stuff. And I remember I'm just eating as happy as I can be. Like, I did it. I'm the man here. This is my table now, you know. And my dad kind of looks up at me, and I like see his like wheels spinning, and I noticed like a moment of acceptance. He looks at me and he goes, gives me the nod, you know. And that was my acknowledgement, like, you did it, son. And I remember I got the nod, and I had this great feeling like, I've been acknowledged, you know. He eats his food, and his body language kind of changed. You could see he's like, okay, this is a small part of my life. I'm moving on now. But we never ever played another game again. I would ask him, and he'd be like, nope, I'm done. I did my job. Like, I don't ever have to do this again. We never ever played again, but it's this thing. It's just this part of me. It's one of my best stories. I tell it at tons of sales seminars. I tell all my salespeople this story all the time. It's just one of those moments, and it's an example. Like, my dad never gave me anything. My dad would set a hard pick on a child if he was trying to get into the lane. You know what I mean? He was the guy that put the elbow in the kid's back to win the game. He made me earn it. And every time I earn something, paycheck, whatever it is, new house, investment, whatever, I owe it to that man. I owe it to how hard he pushed me in that game and in everything in life. And this story is just one of my favorites of him. I told it at his funeral. He was just this ultra competitive guy, and he pulled every ounce of potential out of me because of it. And his sales guys used to work from over there, used to always tell me the same thing. Like, this guy is crazy, but it's working. Like, he's a great coach to me, you know? And it's just one of my favorite dad stories. So I appreciate everybody watching, and I hope you got something out of it.